waves can't stop me, I'm a legend. I run with the crew that's making the moves. Get out of the way, we coming through. We got this, never stopping, and we won't lose. No, we can't lose. Yeah. Are you ready? Yeah. We are the legends. We are the legends. Yeah. Are you ready? We are the legends. We are the legends.
Season number 21 kicked off last time out. And tonight, we're off on round number 2 for the Michelin Maintenance 150 kilometers of Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta. Located in Braselton, Georgia. This track has a lot of rising, a lot of falling, and in some ways, it feels a lot like a mini version of Bathurst. We're going to be bouncing over the curbs down through the first sector. As we rise and fall, the drivers will be challenged to pull the car up, be nice and accurate. And then there's the long back straightaway, an opportunity for a dive bomb down into turn A and 10B. Then they'll rise up and through over the crest once more on the front straight. Home to the Petit Le Mans endurance event. At the tail end of the IMSA season, each and every year. She's a grueling old racetrack, and she's also a really, really fun one to drive, Dave.
Yeah, and a pretty short, sharp little lap as well, give or take about 4 kilometers. Pretty sure makes it shorter than Sandown. And there's a quick lap around here as well. High speeds on the front straight, high speeds on the back straight, just out of Atlanta, as the name suggests, to the northeast. And you've got the key first sector of the lap with the S's and turn 5, some really high curbs through there as well. Really catches drivers out at that part of the lap. But then once you've made the turn around the far end of the racetrack at turn 6 and 7, it is massive speed, predominantly downhill towards the braking zone at 10A, like you described.
A nice little chicane as well. You always feel good when you get a move down the chicane, or even you force somebody in a mistake and they run wide. It's just, this track just really rewards you, and I really like it. I've spent a lot of time doing laps around here in preparation for Petit Le Mans events over the last couple of years, and it honestly it's just a very, very fun circuit to go out there and lap up. So for round number 2, it's going to make a phenomenal little location to go racing. 4 kilometers in length, 12 turns, clockwise direction, and has been open and operating since 1969. We're going to be enjoying all that it has to offer for us here tonight. And like it said in the race notes as well, 150 kilometers here tonight. It's one of the shortest races of the season. You're only going to need to do 28 laps to be classified at the tail end of the race. What does that mean in terms of your fuel? Well, your starting fuel, you're not going to need a whole bunch of it. Getting to 2 pit stops a little bit difficult from 111 litres. Not much to juggle in there. So 50 litres is going to be the starting capacity, all the way back up 61 litres to 111 litres to fill the tank. Looking for around 3 to 3.2 litres of fuel burn. Fuel to add tonight, somewhere between 61 and 69 litres. Some fuel saving can be done, but there will still be your 2 compulsory pit stops. When does that open? Well, your critical lap for the second stop is going to be lap 3. You can do one on lap 2, another one on lap 3, provided the safety car doesn't come out on lap number 1. Potential for a little bit higher of a safety car chance here tonight. In terms of what does the pit stop strategy look like? Well, Dave, it looks a little bit like that. There's a few different options you can take here.
Yeah, 150 Ks of racing, but with the 2 compulsory stops, you can really front load them if you wanted in that stop lap 2, stop lap 4 strategy there. That feels unlikely with a field this size. Track position pretty important. So maybe somewhere near the teal or yellow strategies. I reckon we'll have a few quite near the yellow strategy, honestly. But of course, you never know exactly what the competitors are going to do, how people are going to react to changing situations, safety car percentages. You do need to be on your toes and expect the strategy to change as the race changes.
Yeah, certainly. And in terms of the championship standings, what do they look like after bonus points were applied last week? Well, Scott Gamble was convincingly a race number 1 winner and took a whole bank of bonus points out with him. Michael Taliancic and Ken Latta traded positions late on in the piece. They're going to sit P2 and P3. Michael Stewart ran a reasonably clean race to P number 4 as well. Great job by him. Travis Hunt, home in 5th spot, picks up some bonus points to get him across the line in 5th. Mark Poynton, Tim Nicol, John Latham drove all the way through to P number 8. Sean McNamara as well. What a drive it was for him back through the field. And Michael Whiting home in 10th spot. Your top 10 in terms of things. So we'll keep an eye next week for when we get all of those positions shuffled around. Keep an eye on movers and shakers. There's none to speak of from last week. But Chubby Buns Burgers driver of the day. Well, last time out, John Latham from the rear end of the field to the front. He was challenged every step of the way, with Sean McNamara also going to the tail end last time out from Virginia International Raceway. Tough and tricky to get the overtakes done there. But John Latham made a whole host of them. He's the Chubby Buns Burgers driver of the day from round 1, Dave.
Yep, fantastic, and doing well for himself in the practice and qualifying here for round 2 as well. So again, a driver to watch again this week.
I can tell you, we're actually probably looking at a first shake-up in terms of our qualifying standings as well. And like you mentioned, John Latham is actually towards the front end of the field, ladies and gents. We are about 2 minutes away from finishing off our qualifying for tonight's race, so we'll have an update on you on where they all stand at the tail end of that one. But she's been an interesting old year in terms of V8 supercars racing. And the drivers out on Zoom, how are they enjoying things here tonight? Well, the dyno's back and in progression. That's the lowest I've seen the dyno, which is good because he's not on a lap at the moment. Dean in the top left-hand corner. But Scotty Gamble's not even in the rig at the moment. He's walked away to take a last-minute refreshment break. Damien Cairns has joined us, Jeff Thomas and Dave Kirby as well.
Give us a wave, fellas. We know you tune in.
Fair few guys. It's good to see middle row on the right-hand side. Jason Fewan's back in action yet again in the mocked up V8 supercar in the background as well. Christian Smart and Travis Hunt are going to be to his left. Michael Stewart's down in there. And I have no idea. Is that Ken Latta, I think? Sorto? I'm seeing in the bottom left-hand corner. I think that might be Ken Latta that's down there in that corner of things. Gamble's going to walk back in and jump back behind the rig. He's got the jumper on, so he's feeling a little bit cold. Feelings has recognised that we're all watching along.
Well, David Kirby certainly doesn't look cold, or at least his arms don't.
I'm trying to remember he wore a shirt a couple seasons ago that had some interesting things that we weren't allowed to actually talk about on stream. And don't forget, last week we were digging out greatest racetracks in the world. We were looking for Virginia International Raceway, which is somewhere in the background of that poster alongside of Le Mans. So Michael Stewart gifted us a fair bit of entertainment from last week. That was an interesting moment in the stream.
Yeah, found it. It's below to the left of Le Mans, so just above the headset. Of course, all of those tracks then contained within the Isle of Man TT course, which is insane. And with a shorter race today, the Dino's dyno won't hit quite so huge numbers. Not sure we're going to see an upsize on tonight's order.
No, well, I mean, the other side of that coin, though, I'm thinking, is that because we've got the shorter race here tonight and because it is Road Atlanta as well, the action comes pretty thick and fast. There's no street course. It's no Detroit Belle but it's certainly going to be challenging. And our qualifying results are now locked in, ladies and gentlemen, so we can tell you who's got pole position here tonight for the V8 veterans from round number 2. And Scotty Gamble has not taken pole position is the big news coming out of tonight's racing action, so keep your eyes set on that one. My word, Dino is going to idle in the top left-hand corner. He's nice and calm, he's chilled out, he is relaxed before the race start.
Yeah, gonna check on that, but a couple laps into this race, I'm sure be up at least to the 100, maybe a tiny bit more. We've seen that get up to above on the limiter, but it's just in the lower bit now. Still got a couple of minutes for him to grid, and it's when the lights go on and then go off that the engines and everyone's hearts get racing.
And we're now going to fire through your grid. Well, it's not Scott Gamble who takes pole position, it's his teammate, team boss over at 9.5 SimSports, Sean McNamara, starts off of tonight's pole position alongside of him. Scotty Gamble sits on the front row. On row number 2 is going to be Michael Taliancic for Synergy Sim Racing. We'll start off 92 thousandths of a second from pole position. Last week's Chubby Bun Burgers driver of the day starts alongside of him out of P4. Matt Vanderkraan continues a strong run of qualifying performances when he can put the lap together. Starts out of 5th spot. Ken Latta will start a little bit further back than he necessarily would have liked. 6th spot. And he'll be looking to try and grab some spots early on. David Nash has managed to work his way inside of the top 10. This will be a huge opportunity for him. Podiums have been in the offering the last couple of seasons. Could tonight be the night. Chris Miller to his outside. Troy Stonestreet and David Kirby are going to round out your top 10. And it was good to see Kirby over on the Zoom feed just before as well. We'll move outside of our top 10. Michael Stewart and Blake Delaney. A little bit deeper in the field for Blake Delaney than necessarily he would have liked. So 12th spot for him. Dan Hall and Christian Smart are going to rake up row number 7. Dan will be happy with that qualifying effort. Christian Smart with some work to do from alongside of him. 15th and 16th, Paul Warwick from Tim Nickel in the Fishy Motorsports entry and the Quantum Peckies Racing entries. Before we'll shove it back to 17th and 18th, Damien Cairns was also on Zoom a little bit earlier, and Brad Doble in the Shadow Racing entry. 19th and 20th, Jeff Thomas will not be happy with that qualifying performance. That's a lot deeper in the field than he would have liked. Robert Crisdale with some work to do back there as well. Travis Hunt outside of that one though. The next row of the field is actually the second of the JWM SimSports drivers, so not strong in qualifying this week. Stephen Kennedy alongside of him. Mark Poynton from Stewie Hall outside of 23rd and 24th, 12th row on the grid. Lon Mackay and John Gallen, the new entries, both of these guys, 2 top split. Reasonably qualified right in the middle of things, showing that they'll have some pace from Road Atlanta. Chan Lewis and Jason Fewens on the row in behind them. Darren Crosby, Dean Flavel will round out our top 30 before we will move outside of the 30. We'll start that one off with Jamie Knight. Matty Parker, all the way down in 32nd, has had podium runs before as Matty Parker. He's not probably going to pick one up from that far back in the field. Gary Buckland will start off, I believe, race number 201 for his V8 Veterans career. Good to see him, Darren Goosey's to 201st race, and Buckland will be off alongside of him. Stephen Varga and Mario Reale out of 35th and 36th, a little bit deeper again in the field than these guys necessarily would have liked. 37th and 38th is Hallel Cesar from Robbie Griffiths. 39th is going to be that of Shane Randell, and 40th is going to be, this is where we start to get a little bit further outside, Scott McCune all the way back in 40th. And I believe we've got Logan Barnett in behind him. So that is going to be a racing grid. And I can tell you Barnett's at the crest of the hill, looking down the hill on our start-finish line. It's probably worth a little bit of a look. See the drivers wrapping back up and around the corner? Well, if we get an onboard shot of Logan Barnett as he sits in his grid spot, just for a few seconds, this is what he's got to be faced with for his starting spot.
He's back in Sector 2, and we have this quite commonly with this qualifying format. 2 laps in qualifying. Well, this is another one of those tracks where there's plenty of jeopardy to qualifying when you only get 1 or 2 attempts. Turn 3, for example, blind over the crest there. You want to maximize it in qualifying because the qualifying times are all so close. And another one of those places where it's very easy to get your lap time deleted for the track limits, as well as many other places around the lap. I think that leads to you pointing out some of the quick drivers that are not in the top 10.
There's a fair few of them here tonight as well, whether or not they're coming in a little bit underdone in terms of practice as well. I can tell you we are getting set a few moments away from race start here tonight. From the front end of the grid, Sean McNamara has grabbed himself a pole position. Can he convert that one into a lead when we get down to turn number 1? The revs will rise. V8 Veterans Season 21. On behalf of RaceKraft, it's green flag from Road Atlanta, and the run down to turn number 1. McNamara did not get a good getaway. Gamble did, and Talianci's trying to go through the middle and going to make contact with the pair of them around the outside. Latham tries to stick the nose in as well, and Gamble's got to the lead. Can he hang on to it? Still trying to cover the outfit. Taliancic, though, from Sean McNamara finally manages to slot it in, and Tally had the run, just nowhere to take it.
McNamara was pretty bogged down off the race start. Perfect launch from Gamble, straight from that second place into the race lead, and out of trouble already for the leading 10. Behind is where the dramas are through the S's. At least one car off through the grass, rejoining without too much damage. Turn 5 can be a pinch point, and some positions already looking to be made inside of the top 10 here.
Yeah, we'll have to keep an eye out for a few of those drivers that are having those dramas back in. Off the tail end of the pack. Keep your eyes on David Nash, who I think has managed to hold on to where he started. And we're keeping our eyes even further back at David Kirby, sitting all the way back in 10th spot at the moment, trying to hold off teammate Blake Delaney at the moment. Dan Hall's still trying to cut his way through, and he is going to get aggressive up and around these guys. They're going to go try and 3 wide. Well, Delaney's fuel saving just a little bit because Dan Hall goes diving to the inside, and McNamara's run very, very wide up at the front end of the field. Is that contact with Taliancic? Potentially, he'll feed back in, but it's now going to be at the back end of the 10 as Dan Hall's cut his way through to 10th spot.
From pole to second to off the road for Sean McNamara, resumes in the 9th position. Drama's now kicking off at the start of lap number 2. It's a cool track. There should be grip out there, but maybe the tyres have taken a minute to get to their best placed spot. But then you can put a lot of heat and temperature into these tyres, throwing this big heavy car around.
And that's the thing, they always talk about the temperature. They always talk about looking after the tyres. What it has done, though, for a few of those drivers up inside the top 10, they're all grabbed a spot now, and John Latham has managed to get his way through, and he sits second on the road. Could we finally see someone challenge Gamble up at the pointy end of the field? Latham will be the driver, although he's already dropped the draft, so he's got some work to do if he's going to go in pursuit.
Yep, it's opened up a gap behind Scott Gamble here that you can clearly see. There's him, a tiny bit of space, and then the whole rest of the field window opens now. Who do you think is going to be game to try to take that early? It still feels like the optimal strategy is to run pretty deep.
The optimal strategy, I think, from the early stages is at least get yourself a few laps on the way, and Nickel gets rotated, as does Warwick. And Nickel's just going to be forced to sit there, wait, and be parked up. There's not much more he can realistically do from that point on the track.
And there was more dramas just down the road from them underneath the bridge. A bit of contact, nose to rear quarter. Spun someone else around that I haven't quite picked.
McMurray's dived into the lane, so with everything that's gone on, he's gone, okay, I will be one of the first drivers that's going to jump into the lane. He's keen because he's got pace. He thinks he can undercut all these guys, get back out in the fresh air, and drive on by a whole host of them. Not a bad idea.
Dean Flavel also pitting, but he might have picked up some damage from all of that as well, or he was just deep enough in the field that he thought the strategy was to stop now. For the rest of the field, it's not. Probably want to get to 10 or 15 maybe before you make that first stop. And the laps will come around very quick here as well. Gamble has the fastest lap of the race at the moment, 1 minute 18 seconds.
Reasonable pace early on as well. And we're going to try and grab a couple of replays as everything starts to settle down. All the stuff that's gone on from lap 1. And this is Varga. It was actually Varga that was off the road, not Nickel. And he turns in across Hallel Cesar. So that's the first incident. So there's apparently 2 that have gone on for the Quantum Peckies Racing drivers. And then this is lap 2 with Paul Warwick, who gets in quite deep and then rotated as Tim Nickel.
The orange car that was just ahead of them there gets turned around a tiny bit later as well.
Oh.
Nickel has a good view to a little bit more action down there at the chicane as well.
It was painful as well. I think the heart rate's up now.
Oh, just too much excitement from the Dino's Dyno.
What do you reckon? Heart rate shot through the roof there for a few moments? guarantee you pretty much
Yeah,
done.
perhaps.
Robbie Griffiths is also going to dive into the lane, so something's happened to him now as well. I think McNamara has managed to jump back out reasonably well placed in terms of the drivers that have looked for the early stops. Logan Barnett's already up 17 spots in the opening couple of laps. That is a phenomenal run in the opening couple of laps. We're 4 laps into this race and he's gained 4 spots a lap on average.
Yep. Still maybe looking for a little bit more. Jason Fewens just in behind there as well. Started 24th, runs 24th.
Fewens will be trying to pick this one up. Keep moving forward. Keep an eye on Stewie Hall at the moment too.
Fewens might not be my biggest fan, but I'm his.
He's got a grimace for the ages, though. I do like watching his sim feed. You know, you can tell when he's up and on the wheel. That much is certainly for sure. Update comes through from Race Control. Michael Taliancic is going to receive himself a drive-through penalty, and that will be for the contact with McNamara, we think on lap number 1. So still haven't seen the replay of that one. I wonder if we can grab the incident. But it'll be contact with Sean McNamara as we ride on board with Fewens for just a few moments. Have a look at what his split is doing. Misses the apex down there as well. And there's confirmation of the drive-through penalty for Tally.
Oh, he's got focus. He's got a bit of the head lean, and they're leaving him behind just a little bit there. But hey, we're just talking about the kind of ripping pace that Barnett has at the moment. That's been working up through the field.
I like the lift of the glove off to sort of think about something for a few moments, contemplating the pace. Bit of a check of the rear view mirror as he gets down on the anchors on the run to the chicane.
Contemplate what's happening in front. Bit of a schmozzle. They were locked up. They were leaving tyre smoke in the air. They were banging doors potentially. Logan Barnett continues to pick off a couple. He was battling with Jamie McKnight, and here we have a go at Stuart Hall towards turn 1. In a GT3 car, not much of a braking zone in this thing. Sure is, to try to get the car to slow up and rotate through that corner up the hill.
And that's Elliott is feeding back in as well after serving his drive-through penalty. V's right back in the middle of this, going to go the long way around to Darren Goosey. And does manage to feed back in successfully. Has some work to do for the driver from Synergy Sim Sports.
So 20 seconds cone to cone for that drive-through for Taliancic. Feeds him back from 3rd into the 26th spot right here. It's a pretty quick pit lane relatively here. Pit lane speed 72 kilometers an hour, and it's nowhere near as long as Road America or some other tracks, or Spa, for example, where the length of the pit lane is also long.
Yeah, it's a terrible feeling driving through the pit lane at Spa when you've got a drive-through penalty, because you just sit there and you just roast whilst you're driving down the lane.
The endurance pits is 1 kilometer long. Cone to cone is 1,000 meters at the Spa endurance layout.
I guarantee you'll be probably the longest, one of the longest pit lanes anyway. We're going to get the update of what happened to Sean McNamara all the way back on lap number 1. This will be the run down the back straight into the chicane at the end of the lap. Pretty clear front to rear contact.
Yeah, and there's Taliancic's perspective. Not egregious. It's just a tiny bit clumsy. Was it off the road there? And that's how John Latham, I think it was, got through. Odd.
Either way, has all now resolved itself after the drive-through penalty, and McNamara back out after his pit stop as well, trying to recover his night with a little bit of strategery. That number next to him is going to look in the negatives for a very, very long time. That's 2 races in a row for McNamara as well. That he's had dramas on the opening lap. Oh, how about this on the run through the first sector? And still trying to fight it away. Finally will manage to settle themselves down over Matt Vanderkraan in the 180 machine. hangs onto the spot for now, but the chasing horde is David Nash at the head of it, and they're all queuing up for a crack. And Matt Vanderkrant.
I think I've got Dan Hall as my driver to watch here. 5 positions gained into that 8th spot right in this train. Not great drive off the corner from Nash. And that's where they're going to start queuing up. Chris Miller's going to have a go. Troy Stonestreet might have a go here as well. Side by side for 5th place. Miller's about to get the nose in front of David Nash.
But it's going to be on the wrong side of the road. He's going to be on the outside as they head down in the chicane. He will get rewarded with the inside at the second half. Nash not going to yield either, so these guys are going to check each other up. Everyone knows to tell as they get out of the chicane. Opportunity might be presented for Dan Hall to pick up another spot. Gets checked up by Stonestreet. Finally, Miller will get the job done as they get out of the final corner. But again, looking for a little bit of an overlap, looking for any little advantage any of these drivers can find, or do they sit back and save just a wee bit of tyre at the moment? Try and be a touch faster later on in the stint. Look after the tyre, run long, have fresher tyres at the back end of the race.
Good stuff, good composure there by Chris Miller. Getting that 5th place, going around the outside of the first bit of the chicane, but it's a chicane, so who's to say what's the inside and what's the outside? As long as you can hold your place, then you're inside for the next part. He parked it just a little bit on David Nash, but then got through for his 5th place. And then the rest of the fighting is still to be decided amongst that group.
Yeah, Dan Hall's really closing up, focusing on the exit here. Off of the slow corner at the crest of the hill, and the chain gets longer as well. With that battling on the most recent lap, add another 5 cars into the back end of this train. So we're all continuing to battle away. Michael Taliancic just going to come to the lane, I think, and throw down an early pit stop. Clear one of his 2. That's one of the advantages, though, of being at the back end of the field. Well, you're in a little bit of a hole. You may as well try and dig yourself out with strategy. They need a safety car here. They can tick off their second stop. They can run to the end. And Dan Hall's going to be another driver to feed out of that train as well. You're just talking about him. He's going to be the first driver in that train to come in for a pit stop.
Tyre deg might be a bit higher than you expect just based on the weather, because suddenly, new set of tyres goes on Mike Taliancic. He's flying. He sets the fastest lap of the race. Wasn't especially close, and now a bunch of drivers almost look like, their spotter gets on and says, new fastest lap. This guy in 40th position with a new set of tyres on, and they go, what am I battling for when I could get in and clear some of that fuel drop and get a new set of tyres on?
You know what's really, really interesting was how many drivers elected to take that undercut. There was a bunch of them that have done it. McNamara is going to feed out right in the middle of these guys as well. So according, to how his strategy's going, well, he's bought himself a little bit more position. So it's not worked out too shabbily for Sean McNamara.
And even if all things considered, it's not all-round severe tyre wear here, it's really punishing on the left side tyres. Your front left as you brake and turn into that fast turn 1, and then the left rear as you try to get to power out of some slow right-hand corners, like turn 7 at this end of the lap, like out of the chicane at turn 10. The left sides, front left particularly in GT cars and prototypes and stuff, and the rear tyres are always taking a little bit of a beating if you're not careful with 600 and some horsepower underneath your right foot.
And with a welded differential, doesn't make it easy as well. A couple more updates coming through from race control. Hal Cesar giving a drive-through penalty for that contact we saw all the way back on lap 1. It was then the contact from lap number 2. Paul Warwick has received a drive-through penalty for a contact that's rotated the other of the Pecky's performance cars. So for Tim Nicol and Stephen Varga, they will be feeling a little bit less aggrieved given that a penalty has now been attributed to the drivers that made contact with both of them.
So from none to all of a sudden a flurry of pit stops. There's a bunch of battles out on track amongst cars that haven't stopped yet.
So Kirby has picked up the lead of the cars that have yet to pit. Problem being for these guys is that Stephen Varga is the driver that they're racing around at the moment. They're trying to get down the inside. Varga yet to make his first pit stop. So this is not a direct battle with Stephen Varga for overall race position, and Dan Hall has got a decision to make here. He's trying to go 3 wide, and instead he's going to cause a huge amount of drama. He's going to turn Varga and Kirby. We were watching that live.
I think we had the perfect view for it as it unfolded. Cars twisted in on each other. It was a short stop from David Kirby, so then there were some even quicker cars than him behind him, and it was like a temperature inversion layer or something. The further back in the pack you went, the quicker the cars got.
Yeah, so race control definitely be having a look at that one, and Dan Hall, he was trying to put the nose in there 3 wide. I think he just had to make a decision of who to support rather than trying to go 3 wide through the middle. It's unfortunate. But sometimes you just hesitate in those sorts of moments, and what needed to happen for Dan there is he just needed to pick a lane. Just pick a lane and support.
Yeah, heaps of space still to the right, and he goes for 7/8 of a car width in between the two. See all this space still to the right, and he goes, nah, I'm sitting here. There was never space for Dan Hall's nose, unfortunately.
Would you say from a RaceKraft perspective, though, from Steven Varga, he just didn't need to fight that all that much. He wasn't fighting those guys.
See, just before we got to the replay, I was thinking that surely Varga knows that all these cars have stopped, but there was like 6 of them. So if you let him through, you're going to lose like 2 seconds on that lap. So my initial thought was, is Steven Varga being a little bit foolish, defending and making it difficult for these guys? But then I watched that Dan Hall on board again, and there was like 4 car widths to the right, and he looks for the half a car in between them.
Anyway, well, what that has resulted in is John Latham's now come to the lane, and he's now picked up the lead driver to have done his first stop. He feeds back out in 12th spot on the road too, so reasonable pit stop in and out of the lane nice and quickly for him. This could be an opportunity to try and run down and take some time back out of Scott Gamble as well. Gamble was starting to kick clear, and he has clicked clear of Ken Latta yet again by 4.5 seconds, so Latham's got some work to do. This might trigger an earlier stop than Gamble was certainly thinking about.
And then the weird thing to keep a lookout for at this point in the race is we're already past the get home number. So anyone who's made their second stop could get to the end. There could be a few drivers who stop, take a bit of fuel, and then just want to come in again the next lap, depending on how it works out. So pit lane gets pretty busy here.
Well, Latham's going to set some reasonable times. We'll keep an eye on that margin to race leader Scott Gamble. He'll have some work to do. And we're in this really mixed up, muddled up strategy sense at the moment because, well, to be honest with you, about half the field has pitted. In actual fact, it's probably more than half the field. Latham's up to 7th spot now, so there's only about 6 drivers ahead of him that yet to take their first stop.
Those tyres might be a little done for Mark Poynton as he remains ahead of his teammate Rob Chrisdale. Got a few drivers who took quite a lot of fuel at their first stop just then. So Chris Miller, for example, is one who could gain a lot in the next round of stops, but it has put him to the tail of a little bit of a train. Stone Street, Van der Kraan, Michael Stewart, etc. in front of him. These guys stay out.
Update from race control, Dan Hall, and we're all sitting there going, yep, that one's pretty well deserved. Drive-through penalty for the 462 Evolution Racing Team driver. So unfortunately for Dan, that'll be pushing him deeper in the field, but yeah, better decision making was required, I think, on that location, on that
occasion, maybe even?
Occasion, yeah, I was thinking occasion. Yeah, and yeah, he'll regret that one. Had a reasonable weekend out at the Logitech Pro Bathurst 1000. Yeah, still some work to do down here.
Undercut looks pretty good at the moment as John Latham takes the fastest lap of the race, and when we've seen from Mark Poynton running in the 3rd at the moment that his left rear tyre looks pretty gassed. Around this short lap, Scott Gamble's already a second a lap away from his PB, so he's coming in from the race lead now. Tyre drop off more than some of the other tracks for sure.
How tricky is the pit lane entry here as well? As you crest the hill and come down the hill, you got to try and pull the car up. If you go deep, you're into the wall on the right-hand side, becomes the wall on the left-hand side. So very, very quickly, car can get out of control and get away from you. Lorne Mackay, that's John Latham just going past him right now, so he'll drop back into 6th place overall, but that's pit stop strategy affected, and we're getting to the maximum distance of that 50 litres worth of fuel as well. So we're already beyond 1/3 race distance, which was on the end of lap 12, lap 13 in that realm, and we're already beyond that. So 50 kilometres of 150 well and truly in the rearview mirror now.
So he just got, I think, Rob Chrisdale, who hasn't stopped. Bit of a pinch on pit exit.
That's important. That's for the effective race lead. So Latham is going to get back out ahead of Scott Gamble.
Slightly less fuel taken from John Latham, but also a very powerful tyre undercut of 3 laps. So he would have gained 2 seconds with taking less fuel that he's going to have to take at the next stop, but he also would have gained about 3 seconds just on the tyre undercut at that phase.
Yeah, so an advantage. Nonetheless, what it is going to do is it is going to make Scott Gamble have to go and earn his race win tonight. And that, I think, is the big key. Is it just says to Scott, you've had it all your own way for a fair time. Now you're going to have to earn this one. He moves to the outside as they run down the back straightaway. Be inside at the crest of the kink, then it becomes the outside at the entry to the chicane. Deep under brakes, Latham doesn't fight that one too hard. So, first time in a while, Scott Gamble said to overtake a car on track. An overtake he has now done.
And we've had 1 pit stop from everyone, but I don't think we've had the second pit stop from anyone except maybe David Kirby.
Interesting. With the amount of damage and the spin down the back straightaway, yeah, that would potentially be a potential. A short lap time here tonight as well, ladies and gentlemen, just over the 1 minute 20 mark. Sorry, even under the 1 minute 20 mark. Means that traffic is going to be a big issue. One of the reasons to run shortest race of the season from Road America. And that was a big pinch of a break. David Kirby sits down 37th on the road, but has made 2 stops, and that's the key.
Yeah, because reading my timing likes to confuse me every now and again. We've had almost 5 drive-through penalties served, and that triggers it as well. But when I look at the tyres used, Kirby's on his 3rd set because he has stopped twice. We'll see if any of those sort of early first stop takers also become early second stop takers inside of the top 10 or 20 or so. Particularly if you look back at Sean McNamara, for example.
Very curious to see how long McNamara does run. Very, very curious to keep up to date with his progress as well. Tell you what, he has actually made some ground. He's back up to 4 spots, so all in all, it had a lot of potential to just completely and utterly derail his night. It hasn't torn the bottom out of it. So there'll be an opportunity here. We're keeping an eye on Michael Stewart, Matt Vanderkraan as they go bouncing down. It gives you a really, really good understanding of the amount of curbs. It's this next left-hander right here that Stewart's just gone through. You can pick up the curb on the inside, you bounce all over the curb on the exit, little bit of runoff, and then back onto the main racing surface as well.
Need the onboard bigger because we spotted VIR a week ago, but Road Atlanta's presumably somewhere near it. There's a cluster of American racetracks. I can spot Daytona. To the left of it is Summit Point. Watkins Glen up there.
See Sebring as well. Fair few of them, and this is a lovely little circuit too. It looks quite like a steak, tomahawk steak, which helps you try and spot it. Yeah, I do see it. It's just the bottom right-hand side of Pocono.
Is it?
Yep. See the triangle? Bottom right. Off the longest side of the triangle. Maybe that's not it.
With center, of course, he's put the red dot on it. That's what the red dot is. That's where we are.
Oh, okay.
Man, we are standing all over X marks the spot. Going.
Are we just going to play Where Are We Racing each and every week from now on? It's not
Kind of
Where's
like-
Waldo.
It's kind of ruined the game to circle Wally, you know, in the book.
Only if you're the person who gets handed on to after he's been set. How else do you prove to your friends you found it?
These are the big, big questions that you've got to ask during 150 kilometers of racing at Road Atlanta.
I do like this track. I do really, really enjoy this track, and Jeff Thomas is really, really enjoying going toe-to-toe with Mark Point at the moment. Finally gets the job done as they come around the main straightaway. But he'll light up the rears, and that's going to give Mark Point the run back down to the inside. Goes for another move into turn one. Is he going to hold it? Because once you find the grass at turn one, it's very difficult to keep the car out of the fence, but that is supreme racing, racecraft, and room given from both drivers.
Yeah, great attack and defense from both, but both understanding where the limits were, giving each other enough space. Jeff Thomas might be just a little bit quicker. Poynton ran long in that first stint and then hasn't taken a whole heap of fuel. So he'll have good tyres now, but he'll need a longer stop later on. That's Jeff Thomas's perspective. Sure, the mirror and the relative both get a glance after every corner.
He doesn't get great traction out of the slow corner to bring us onto the back straight either. And Poynton is going to go for another move down the outside. These two continue to race each other. They're losing just a touch of time to those around them. Poynton's going to go the long way round, and Thomas decides to slot in eventually.
We are racing, but there comes the point by.
That's it. It's the time loss at this point in time. That's costing both of these guys. That's why they elect to forgo the battle. Meantime, Ken Ladder's actually gone up and nicked second spot away from John Latham. So there's been a swap between these two for positions on the road. So Latham come out with the race lead. Well, he no longer has P2 either.
Yeah, good moves, Ken, and he took 22 seconds of fuel, I think, at his first stop. So then his next stop's going to be decent as well. So he's 3 seconds behind Scott Gamble, but he may have taken 3 seconds more fuel. Dramas elsewhere. I think we're going to see how this happened against Latham.
Yeah, so running down the back straightaway. We'll pull alongside for Ken Ladder. Has him comfortably. Yep, Latham decides to slot in. We were just talking about dramas. It's dramas for Lorne Mackay, who's not only
More
had...
like lawn mower.
Yeah. He runs wide at turn one and does find the barrier as well. That was a heavy hit in the left front.
Who's never done that at turn one as well? The corner just keeps on going, and once you're in the grass, you're in trouble. I've seen, I think the IMSA Championship decided that way one time here at Petit Le Mans. Turn one, deceptively tough. A racetrack where you look from the satellite view and you go, oh, that's a challenging corner. But then from the driver's perspective, you're climbing up the hill through turn one. It's blind over the crest, dropping down aggressively through turn three. Turn 5, another one of those corners, looks simple on the track map, on the wall, on the webcam, but in actuality, with the curbs, with the elevation change, it's constantly trying to trick you around here.
That's the big key, is all those big corners. There's so much elevation change throughout the lap. And the amount of speed you carry down into turn 1 is ridiculous. That just narrows up and that exit gets quite close. You've got to, if you're not carrying the speed all the way to the outside of the track down at turn 1, you're going to have a slow lap time. But boy, is it risk versus reward down there. And Lil Mackay is going to come to the lane and get those repairs serviced on that car. Keep himself racing. Meantime, this little battle pack, Stephen Kennedy, Jason Fewens, and Darren Crosby will go toe-to-toe.
Taylor's oldest time, a bit of congestion on the M1.
In the M1 racing livery. Yes, well done, Dave.
Yeah, indeed. And they pick up a spot, all of them, on a couple of cars that are stopping to make their second stops. Christian Smart and Tim Nicol are going to fuel up from here to get to the end. It definitely feels like it's that sort of window time, 13, 14, 14 laps to go from here. If you think you're coming up into some traffic or you're being impeded or anything, decent time to put those new tyres on now.
Yep, certainly have a crack. Go for a little bit of the undercut. We are rapidly racing in on 2/3 race distance, and that's about when they all like to do their second round of stops. It's 15 to go at the start of the lap. It'll be down to 14 and a half to go at the moment. And the drive out the other side, what's it going to look like? Or Fewens?
Sure seemed like he was quicker through the first bit of the lap, and now he really picks up a bit of pace down in towards the turn 10 braking zone, middle of the road for Fewens to put his Commodore in front.
Ooh, just to prop him up a little bit as they tipped into 10A, then out through 10B. Manages to hold and gain one spot. Now we'll see if he can run away. Big shout out to Darren Goosey. I thought you mentioned it might have been last week was his 200th start. So he was 199 starts before we started racing last week. Was in attendance from Virginia International Raceway. So tonight marks his 201st race start for Darren Goosey. There's only one other driver that has made that number. Also in this split here tonight, Jamie Knight. So these are your two most common drivers in the championship.
A lot of kilometres included in all of that.
In the meantime, probably worthwhile having a little bit of a look up and down the field as pit lane becomes busy. Michael Stewart's going to feed in with a bunch of drivers in behind him. Just about to say we should have a look at the gainers and losers on tonight. Scott Gamble's gain +1. After qualifying didn't necessarily go his way. Still leads the race, and that's the big key. Barnett's still +29. Phenomenal driving.
Gamble pulling just a little bit of time on Ken Latter at the moment, though, as well. So their fuel strategy was going to have him close, and now Gamble on track pulling out some of that. The positions gained is still a little questionable until everyone's had their second stop. Hence, you see how quickly it jumps around as drivers who've been running long might have short fueled at the first stop as well, and then make their second stop and tumble back down a little bit. But I'd say Mark Poynton's positions gained is pretty well all square inside of the top 10. He's made a lot of good moves.
And Jeff Thomas has had some sort of drama whereby he's picked himself up an iRacing penalty. Sean McNamara is going to feed in the pit lane as well. So we think it might be a speeding in pit lane penalty because we've got the option to get Jeff Thomas's camera up. We've had some expert data analysts having a look at it, and they conclude that it's a speeding in pit lane penalty. That's certainly what that looks like on the camera.
Yep, it's up in the top left of his screen there, and it will be relatively costly. Is it a 40-second hold, or is it just the 15 seconds maybe? Okay.
Would make sense. 15-second holds generally what I've seen those penalties going for of late. Line out now into the lane. Mike Poynton, Aaron Crosby, Lavelle, Goosey. Geez, everyone's starting to really come in. If you haven't done your second pit stop, now might be the time.
Yep, 11 to go for the leader, Scott Gamble, who just crosses the line, and the drivers behind him in second and third. They don't cross the line because Ken Latta and John Latham are going to come in for their second stops. Gives them another opportunity to maybe just undercut a little bit of time out of Scott Gamble, who ran long-ish in the first stint.
I mean, the other option is that Gamble could have tried to save some fuel behind Latham, but you saw immediately he just wanted to get the elbows out, get the job done. Latham and Latta both into the pit lane together as well. So I think we're going to see the whole host of cars in now.
16-second stop for Latta, who I think is the driver best positioned to challenge Scott Gamble in this race now.
Yep,
so if Scott Gamble comes in for his next stop and it's 18, 19, 20 seconds stationary, and Ken Latta will be right with him. And again, at least one lap here, an opportunity on the new tyres for Ken Latta to try to undercut Gamble, who skates the rear a little bit on his way into 10A.
Just wonder for Gamble how long he's going to wait, and not all that long. So he's going to try and minimise the damage to the cars behind with that undercut. Here they all come. Have a look at the stop ranges on the right-hand side of your screen as they're all feeding in. Gamble's in. Parker's just left. Jeff Thomas is in the lane as we currently speak to serve his penalty.
Latta and Latham were the only two drivers Scott Gamble really needed to worry about as well. So if you see both of them pit on the same lap behind you, pretty easy decision to cover them off. And if you come out in front of them, then the race is back in your hands. Again, there is the strategy. Latham running it a little bit short at the first stop. Gamble and Latta stopping same lap on the first stop. Gamble running one lap longer. His Latta at speed. Gamble, he only had a 16-second hold in his box, so he should be 3-4 seconds ahead on the rejoin.
Indeed he is. He's going to take the rejoin with the race lead, and to try and control this one, John Latham's managed to make some time back towards Ken Latta too, so we will have a battle on our hands for second place. Worthwhile keeping an eye and just keeping this one not too far from where you'd like to focus. Probably one of our bigger battles on the road as well. The margin's only 4 seconds, so both of these guys have actually taken some time out of Scott Gamble. Not enough to overhaul him, and something's just happened to Troy Stone Street as well.
We've got everyone as having made their second stop now in the last sort of 2 or 3 laps. Taking a look at this. Oh, someone's already off the road there, so you've got to look a little bit further back.
Run down to the chicane. A late move and taking outside the track. I think that was Travis Hunt. Indeed, it was.
I don't think Travis Hunt was even trying to make a move. I think he's locked it up. He's coming in too hot. He tries to cut the corner, but there's no avoiding.
And you need to have people you kind of trust and really know well enough to be able to pull that sort of a move off as well. Yeah, didn't work out the way Travis Hunt was attempting. In the meantime, this battle pack is Talianchi's still trying to cut his way back through the field. When you're going to drive through penalty, you want a longer race, you've got opportunity to drive as far back forward as you possibly can. This one, no opportunity presented itself for Talianchich. No safety car here tonight either.
Is that surprising? Could be. I think it is.
I think there's generally enough contact from Road Atlanta to just trigger one. It is a technical, tough little circuit. Again, Dave said, you look from above, you go, oh yeah, that's not too easy. No, this is tough. This is tricky.
It's not Long Beach or Belle Isle though, so it's somewhere in between on the difficulty scale and how easily you can find the wall and how easily the track could be blocked, or a small incident becomes a big incident and keeps collecting cars as it goes on.
Those are the big ones. that we're going to sit here and say, yeah, we probably don't want to see. John Latham's just had a huge moment on the run into turn number 1, by the way. Travis Hunt just got a drive-through penalty as well for that incident we saw just before. Definitely the driver at fault, but
bit of excitement off track. Chris Smart versus Logan Barnett here, I think it is. Yep. Side by side up through turn 1. Apparently that's turn 2. It's turn 3 here that's blind, hopping the curb, heading down into the S's. And Smart's best placed to go up into 12th, but positions gained across this race. For Logan Barnett, per my timing, perhaps a little bit less per the official timing, but still a driver from deep in the field, making big gains, but making big slides as well.
That's the tricky part about it, isn't it? Trying to keep the rear tyres underneath you as we round the next few corners. Run back to the start-finish line. We're going to start our 31st lap of the night of 37. So we're already beyond 100 kilometres. We're zeroing in on our final 30 or so Ks. Seven more laps left to run, and for this group they will get 7 more laps left to run when they get the start finish line as they're all trying to feed their way in. Tail of the field, Gary Buckland was one of the late stoppers. He's held out until he could no more. Gary Buckland will now get his final pit stop of the night out of the way. So I think that should cleanse the field in terms of pit stop strategy.
Yep, that's what I see. I think is going to lock in Logan Barnett as the biggest mover of the race for the moment.
Going to take a check in with the Dean Flavel dyno once more.
Now, before the race, he was down at sort of 70, 80, but baby, we are above 100 now, heading up to 112, 113. He's engaged in battle here, made a couple of positions, as you can see, from 30th on the grid to be racing 23rd with Jamie McKnight in 22nd. Faster than the both of them on the last lap, though, was Matty Parker, who's in the rear view mirrors and getting a little bit bigger towards the tail end of this race.
Well, he's now going to have to try and drive up there and get a little bit more aggressive as Dino does a lot of the work in pulling in. Next car on the road. He's going to be side by side with him as he gets onto the anchors down here into 10-8. Doesn't quite get the job done yet. He'll switch it back again. Just not quite able to get the drive out. Just hearing word and update from the Fishy Motorsports entry, the 008 Blake Delaney, who's had so much success in the past as well. iRacing Black Flag sees him come to the pit lane, so that one I'm going to say is probably for not serving a slowdown penalty in time.
Yeah, because it was just a straight drive through, no stop and hold in the box or anything. You saw it on the graphic, 20-ish seconds. And where does he rejoin? Right with the action. Oh, he is the action.
Difficult opportunity to try and get these overtakes done now. He's got to get the elbows out. Got one done. No, I think he's going to yield that one back away. I think that's Stewie Hall that he's racing at the moment. 49 entry, and indeed it is. So Blake Delaney's going to try and find some traction as they run down the back straightaway. 5 laps left to run now, running out of time. If he wants to find more than one spot before the end of this one, he's got to overtake Stewie Hall at this first opportunity.
Zone 5, like you said, looks easy on the map, but is so difficult with the curbs there, and he got a bad run over the curbs, got sideways. That's how he lost that spot. That's how they dropped away from the battle we previously were watching up here with Jamie McKnight, Dean Flavel, and Matty Parker, who's now all over the both of them.
So, battling away. Again, with only 4 more laps left on the card. You have to say that this one's actually not too bad. You want to see him stoush just a little bit more, because this is the end of the race. This is what you set yourself up for. Scott Gamble's run away to a 6-second lead. Looks quite comfortable.
It's all fallen apart for Blake Delaney. It was a 15-second stop and hold. He just drove through and he had to do it again.
So it was 2 separate penalties, but 666 entry. Now Chris Miller drives his way through and steals a spot inside the top 5. So Van der Kraan qualified well, has been there since just about the very start of the race, finally gives that one away to Chris Miller, his best run in a good while.
They're working his way back to the 5th place. Miller took quite a lot of fuel at the first stop, and then he had a very quick second one there, so he might have compromised himself just a little bit in the middle of the race.
Here he is. This is Matt Van der Kraan trying to go the long way around up the chicane and couldn't quite pull it off.
So those two will battle it out for a couple more laps. Just dropped David Nash and Damien Cairns a little bit. Cairns and Kenneth Latter. Ken Latter in second is now coming under pressure from John Latham.
Yeah, and there'll be 3 more laps left to run for these guys now as time starts to elapse, and Latham is starting to come back at the Fishy Motorsports driver. Gonna have to drive it hard over the next couple laps. So although the tyres don't need to last all that long, you can just supremely have a crack. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But hey, you'll go away knowing that you definitely had a crack at that one.
Neither of them in the second stint have made much chance of catching up Scott Gamble. So after the final stop, Gamble had a lead of 3 seconds. It's out to about 6. Who joins him on the podium is the battle we look at right now from second backwards at 3rd place. And then a lapped car behind that. I think that is Delaney, isn't it?
Yes, it will be Blake Delaney that feeds in behind these guys. So also off the lead lap for Blake Delaney. Unfortunate. But Latham's going to make some space, make some pace and make some space, and he does make that space to the inside at the entry of the chicane. He's going to run Ladder out of road. They're going to bang doors all the way through. And Ladder's mostly got the spot, now has got the spot once more. And Latham tries to carry the speed down through turn number 1. 2 more laps left to run for these drivers. 8 kilometers now remaining in the motor race, and Latham's wide at 1. That'll spell the end of his race to try and steal that spot from Ken Ladder, and Delaney's going to give him an opportunity to feed back in there because he can't gain a spot, can't lose a spot. It's a good sportsmanship from Delaney.
It's like going past the event horizon of a black hole or something. Once you've got one tyre on the grass, then you can't keep making the turn. The turn and the racetrack keeps getting further and further away from you, and you're destined to run all 4 tyres through the grass out there. Puts a little bit of a halt to John Latham's charge. Puts some space between 2nd, 3rd and 4th, but good luck finding too much space between 5th, 6th, 7th, maybe even 8th place here.
Something's just happened to Matty Parker as well on this lap, as he's going to put a request in race control to have a look at the chicane on lap 35. So last lap through the chicane, and Van der Kraan lit those rear tyres up, but they've only got to survive this lap and 1 more. So looking after them, no longer the biggest concern. Getting the spot is his biggest drama. Nash is going to try and come through and have a crack at him. Covers the inside. Nash is going to give him a whack, and around he goes. Is he going to survive this one? He will get the car arrested, but a big heavy contact with the wall. And I think the left front tyre is actually off it. I don't think he's going to make the line from Matt Van der Kraan.
Race leader started the final lap. Van der Kraan's got big damage. It was like a late kind of dummy cell there. He's tried to swap from the right-hand side to the left-hand side behind Matt Van der Kraan, and David Nash has just copped the rear bumper of Van der Kraan.
Well, they were both sort of hesitating about where they both wanted to go, so it wasn't that simple. So there's the car already destroyed, and you can see the splitters off it. I can tell you the front left tyre is off that car. So the thing I'm looking for here, Dave, is was there a move from Van der Kran to defend? If there was, then he's got a case. But if there's not, and the problem is he hasn't pulled out completely from behind Miller either. He hasn't fully covered it. He hasn't fully not covered it. So he sort of put Nash in two minds as well.
But there's a deliberate look from Nash to go left before Van der Kran goes right. So it's Nash isn't reacting to what the car in front's doing. He's already got a plan that he's following.
Yeah, and Scott Gamble has already got through and taken the race win. So that one's already run over and decided. And Nash has had a drama now down at the chicane going for the spot. So he's going to lose a couple spots on the final lap of the race. Was in there with the chance at 5th spot, and it all come apart in the final 2 laps for David Nash. And then these guys just outside the top 10. Michael Taliancic, by the way, drove back through to 13th spot. I think Tally just picked up a black flag for an incident point penalty on the final lap of the race and won't get service. So he's going to drop through the standings because I'm showing a black flag for him. Lewis and Crisdale home 13th and 14th. And then we get back outside the 20s. So that one flew by in a couple of heartbeats. 51 minutes from end to end on the race timing for that one.
Incident point penalty at 17x in this race as well. So you can see just a little bit of contact, a couple of off tracks, you could start to rack it up pretty quickly, if you weren't careful.
And race has now been run and won. So we'll have your race details up for you in just a few moments. And your final racing results will see Scott Gamble win another one, 2 on the trot for season 21. Ken Latta home, 7.5 seconds in behind him, and John Latham will pick up P3 even after the dramas down at turn 1. In the dying stages of that one, Sean McNamara drives back through to 4th spot after issues on the opening lap. Chris Miller from Damien Cairns, Michael Stewart, Brad Doble. That's a phenomenal race from Brad Doble. Actually, that might be our driver of the day for Brad Doble, from 18th to finish inside the top 10. Although there's another one that we need to talk about. David Nash in behind him, and Logan Barnett started 43rd gridded, drove through to 10th. Albeit, I think he's only had to overtake 31 cars as a part of that one. A couple of safety cars involved in that one. Christian Smallby, the first driver outside the top 10 from Mark Point. And Chad Lewis, Robert Crisdale, Darren Crosby, Stephen Kennedy, Fewens, Stone Street, McKnight home in 19th, and Dean Flavel out of 20th. We'll throw it back outside 20. For Stewie Hall from Tin Nickel, Darren Goosey, Dan Hall, with all the issues in that overtaking move, does finish out of David Kirby. Kirby probably not too happy about that one. Robbie Griffiths, Matt Van der Kran repairs the car, gets home in 27th, but on the lead lap. Shane Rendell, John Gallen will lose spots. I believe he gridded up around the mid-20s, so he's lost a few spots, as is Michael Taliancic, with picking up that end of the race penalty, as well as the penalty for the incident on lap number 1. So 2 penalties for the Synergy Sim Racing driver. Matty Parker off of the lead lap from Mario Reale, Stephen Varga and his incident, Blake Delaney also off the lead lap, Travis Hunt from Lorne Mackay, Jeff Thomas and Gary Buckland both at 1 lap down, the 2 retirements, Halil Cesar and Paul Warwick. And Scott McCune didn't start the race, so issues for McCune here tonight. There was only 40 drivers in attendance, so it will be 30 drivers overtaken for Logan Barnett, and I think that's good enough for driver of the day. What are your thoughts on that one, Dave?
I'd say so, yeah. Good strategy. Stopped after 11 laps, so made some progress, had a little bit of an undercut on a bunch of other cars, and then just drove pretty cleanly from there, I'd say. So, yeah, good moves in what you already described as a relatively short race.
We're going to have a chat quickly to our podium. We'll start from 3rd spot on the night. It's going to be the driver who last week took away the Chubby Buns Burgers driver of the day, John Latham, in the podium here tonight. But boy, that one was not easy. There was a fair bit of biffo going on lap number 1.
Hey guys, unfortunately it looks like Sean and I forgot who it is. Sorry, you have to excuse me a little bit tonight. I have not been well, and as you probably saw during the race, I had my brain went missing a few times. So, but yeah, that first lap, I saw Sean go off through the traps, and Mike, I think he got a drive through for that. So that gave me a bit of breathing room. which was pretty good because some laps I'd feel comfortable, some laps I just would not, and just drift off into another world. So, but yeah, otherwise I had some really great battles with Ken there. They were pretty tough but fair racing, good racing. And Scott just had too much pace for us today. I think he drove a really good race, and took the win by a good margin.
Hey, classical V8 circuit, this one, lots of people refer to it nearly as a mini Bathurst because it's got that rise and that fall element to it. It's even though the walls aren't quite as close as they are up and around the mountain, a lot of the other characteristics are basically the same. It's just a challenging drive. It's always good fun, and there's very...
That's definitely for sure. You think you get a decent rest down that back straight, but you really kind of don't. Cruising around over through the top, through the S's and stuff, it's always hard work, especially if your legs are like spaghetti noodles and they're not working properly. It requires a fair bit of finesse up through the top there and down through the S's, and really just making sure you get a good run onto that back straight where you do get to rest, but if you're following someone, you don't really get to rest much at all.
All right, mate. Well, congratulations here on third place. We might let you catch up on a little bit of rest and hopefully feel a little bit better, mate. Anyone you'd like to thank here tonight? Yeah,
just everyone on the team. They've been having stacks of fun. Congrats to Brad. He got a top 10 tonight, so he'll be happy with that. Cheers to all you guys for the broadcast. Thank you for all the officials and helpers and everyone in admin behind the scenes of V8 Vets. It's one of the most enjoyable leagues I've raced for a very, very long time. And thank you to RaceKraft.
All right, thank you very much for your time, John, and we'll see you again next week, brother.
Thank you.
We'll take one step further forward on the podium. Ken Latta had a phenomenal battle with John Latham there tonight. Not easy, this, but I was just saying to John, not easy, this place. It's actually quite a technical race circuit with a lot of different elements bouncing up and over the curbs as well. It takes a lot out of you in terms of the intensity of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite easy to make a mistake here. You know, you got to really take the time to shift away the car, and you know, coming onto that back straight is extremely critical to sort of hold someone out trying to make a move on you. As you sort of saw probably in the closing laps, I split sideways and then bang, he was right there, and you had to fully maximum commit to the braking there and then just hope that it sticks. And yeah, fortunately enough, I was able to come away with it against John tonight.
In terms of things, it was good challenging away with the likes of him and Scotty Gamble, but lap one got a little bit ugly, which is not all that common in terms of things. You guys normally don't swap a whole bunch of paint, but yeah, there was a fair bit of paint traded up there at the pointy end of things tonight.
Yeah, I was clean myself, but unfortunately, yeah, there was something happened between you know, Sean and I think it was Teliancic, and I'm not sure what happened, but yeah, you know, all I know is that one car was going off, and I was just like, oh, okay, and then trying to sort of work my way up to John, and then I realised quite quickly that Gamble had good pace on him, and trying to make a move on John to try and chase Gamble down was going to be a mountain of a job to do, and probably not a job that I was really up to anyway.
Mate, you'll take P2 points either way, and finally, floor's all yours to thank anyone you'd like to give a shout out to.
Yeah, just great to be back as always. You guys, Race Control, and the top place Scotty, well done, and well done to John, all the guys at Fishy, West End Motor Group, Infinity Design, DC Shades, Battery Warehouse, Early Beach, Precision Sim Training. Thank you.
All right, thanks very much for your time, Ken. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
All right, we'll take one step further forward, talk to tonight's race winner, who's making an absolute habit of this 2 weeks in a row for this season, and a whole host of them from last season as well. Scotty, back to, you know, the top end of town, back under control, and setting a huge standard. But how good was the qualifying lap from the team boss here tonight?
Yeah, it was, Scotty. Absolute magic by Macca. It must be disappointing for him. He's like super fast here, and both times we've been here, he's been taken out. So yeah, I mean, great recovery drive by him to get back to fourth. But yeah, but I mean, he's still got pole, he's still got good points. So I think yeah, he'll be happy with that. But yeah, he's very, very fast here.
Yeah, and unfortunately for him, lit the tires up on the start as well. It's just not been the start that he's necessarily been looking for. But title defense and chasing another championship start for you is gone all your way. I think fastest lap yet again here tonight, but you're picking up all the bonus points, most laps led. No pole position bonus point here tonight, but yeah, 2 race wins from 2 so far.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Yeah, it was good to get it. I have to work really hard at Road Atlanta. I've got some bad traits here from, well, days on the Forza on the controller, and used to do a lot of laps at Road Atlanta. And so Road Atlanta's been very, very difficult track for me, and I've had to really work hard at it and adjust how I go about driving it, and probably not really braking as hard in and just trying to glide in a little bit more. So I made those adjustments, and yeah, care of Sean, because I got to look at his telemetry and see how he was doing it, which was a real bonus, and that kind of helped too. So the credit does go to the team and the way that we use telemetry in VRS, and yeah, so it does help.
Mate, how are you feeling coming off the back of a very, very big week as well with the Logitech Bathurst 1000 and everything that's going on? How's the recovery process been? You managed to finally catch up on a little bit of rest and ease back into it a little bit more this week?
It was absolutely huge, wasn't it? It was like last week was just a blur. It was so much going on, and the Pro Series on Sunday night, or Sunday during the day, sorry, and yeah, that was a big race and a difficult race because they're just so fast, and you make any sort of mistakes and they're right on you. So it was, yeah, it's been tough. I mean, you just do a little bit of practice, not too much is the way I went about it. And done an official race on Tuesday night, which really helped me. It was a 45-minute race, and we got around there, and so that sort of helped, and that was my lead up to this race, mate.
All right, mate. Well, congratulations on another race win, and who would you like to give a shout out and a thank you to?
Yeah, I'd like to thank the 9-5 boys. They're great. They're what can I say about them? They're full of support, plenty of chat in our chat channels, and they're always positive, which is great. And to Sean, bad luck again, mate. Yeah, really unfortunate, but it's going to come for him, I'm sure of it. So to the sponsors over at RaceKraft, over at 9.5, I'd like to thank RaceKraft, Turn-In Apparel, RSW Graphics, Racing Ears, Prestige Cinematography. I'd like to thank you guys over at SimSpeed TV. I love watching your broadcasts and replays across all of them that you do, even the Porsches. I really enjoy watching them too. So thank you very much. Well done to Ken, absolutely top drive, and to John, good to see him back up there. And a couple of standouts, Damien Cairns, he drove absolutely really well, same as Brad Doble and Logan Barnett. I reckon Logan's really fast, so it's only a matter of time. I know he cracked the top 10 tonight, but I think we'll see him pushing further. So yeah, shout out to those guys, well done, and yeah, we'll see you next week. Cheers.
Hey, congratulations. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you again next week.
Thanks, mate. Bye.
Righto, that is going to wrap us up in one of the shortest broadcasts that we've actually had here from the V8 veterans. So we're just going to jump back quickly and make sure that we give a big old shout out to the Chubby Buns Burger driver of the day. 30 overtakes here tonight to go from effectively 40th on the grid all the way through to 10th spot at the end of a very, very short race, 150 kilometers, and that's effectively an overtake every 5 kilometers, just over. Well, not quite one overtake a lap, but not very far away from it. So phenomenal driving from Logan Barnett here tonight. Takes out the Chubby Buns Burgers drivers of the day for Send It Sim Sports. Dave, another quick action-packed race here tonight. Next week we're off to Germany and Oschersleben. This is one that challenges these cars.
Yeah, great driving, great strategy, great pace from the Chubby Buns Burgers driver of the day. And next round, as you say, Germany, relatively new track. There's some other tracks with a lot of history. Does anywhere have more racing history than the Nordschleife? But Oschersleben is sort of the other side of that coin in German racing, and it'll be interesting to see what it turns out next week for V8 Vets.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us here tonight. We want to say a big shout out to all of our regular fans who join us here on a Thursday night for the RaceKraft V8 Veterans for Season 21 on behalf of Player One Sim Gear, SudSpeed, LGC Images, Logitech G, Nova Simsport, Parramatta Isuzu Ute, and Chubby Buns Burgers. our biggest supporters that make it all possible here over at the RaceKraft V8 Veterans. Big shout out to Scott Gamble for winning another race for 2024. Who will rise to challenge him? Find out next week when we go racing for the final time in Australian Eastern Standard Time before the weekend after switches us over to Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. We'll see you again next week.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.